Bwala, I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us here on Front Row on Control TV. You are indeed the spokesperson of the Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Council. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you
at this time. So many developments have happened from the last time that we had a discussion like this with you.
Right.
One of which is the, purported dissatisfaction by one of your call it founding members in the person of Governor Wike'S of Rivers State. As a matter of fact, just moments ago, he was talking to the media in a chat. One of the things that he has harped on is that he's not seeing or getting equity, justice, and fairness in the operations of your party, the PDP. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think I followed the interview, followed through the interview, although I cannot claim to have watched all of it, but a substantial part of it. And quite frankly, there is nothing new in what he said today. Almost everything he said today, apart from the incidents relating to Celestine Omeha. Virtually everything regarding the party is the same thing he has said before, right? That EHIU has to step down, and that the stepping down of EHIU is consistent with what he believes to be equity, fairness, and justice. And so I do not see the interview as something that one will have to react to, because no new issue or issues emerge that will require clarification or joining of issues for the purpose of clarifying to the public. And so the position will still be that the party has taken a position based on this issue, that if EHIU has to resign, it has to be consistent with the party's procedure and rules and constitution. And that the procedural rules and constitution so far has not been followed, and he has not activated that in the quest for the stepping down of EHIU. And in the last meeting that he has had, the last press meeting, he also said something about extra constitutional means. And by that he meant that the party should just abrogate the idea of following the constitution by asking IU to resign. So the fear of the party is that how can the party forget about the very basis that gives the party legitimacy, right? For which the Nigerian people engage with the party as a political organization. So they felt that if anything has to happen, it has to be in accordance with the party. Even if EHIU has to resign voluntarily, then it has to be a decision by EHIU, but not coercion by the party or any of its agents.
But you do agree also that he has referred to Section 73C of your constitution, saying that if a candidate, for instance, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is running for president in 2023, if he comes from the north, then it only makes sense to have the chairman of the party come from the south. That is basically the kind of equity that Nyesom Wike is talking about. Is he wrong, even though he's referring and quoting your constitution?
Okay, so the interpretation is subjective in the sense that the constitution of the party does not provide for the idea of north and south, but promotes equity, fairness, and justice. And so party always have had this recourse on convention. And convention is those practices of the party in relation to this issue over the years. And if you follow that, even if you want to give a strict interpretation of the import of that, what that section provides, and I said it some weeks ago, is that where the presidential candidate comes from a section of the country, the chairman of the party will come from the other section of the country. But in this case, Atiku Abubakar is not a president. He is a candidate. So the equity and fairness reference in that section relates to positions that are established. He is merely a candidate. So it will apply if Atiku Abubakar becomes the president of Nigeria. Then it will be fair and just and equitable that the chairman of the party should either step down, or there should be a procedure to be initiated for the purpose of having him to step down. That hasn't happened. Some people have even raised questions arising from that kind of a demand to say, what if Atiku runs for the post and he loses, and you've already taken out Yocha, do you bring him back again? There are so many issues surrounding that. And that is why I think that the party saw wisdom in that. And don't forget that during Yaradua was the presidential candidate, Ahmadu Ali was the chairman. They both went to the election and they won. As soon as they won, there was a convention held where Ahmadu Ali had to step down.
But does it make sense when Wike should say that, okay, if you have to go by what you're saying, it should be the procedure or is the procedure, what use is, party chairman after the elections?
After the election?
Yes.
Assuming we win or lose?
Assuming.
Generally.
Now, he is, very stuck on the fact that, okay, you must change the chairman who will work for the party, be part of the party, to see it succeed to become to gain the presidency.
I think his emphasis is not about the new chairman working to ensure we win, because he isn't even expressing fears that if this chairman remains as the chairman, he's going to lose the election for us. His point is that for equity, fairness, and justice, each time you look at the political party, you should look at it from the prism of national unity. All of us are agreeable to it. The only problem is, like I said, subjective interpretation. He is looking at it from the point of view that the chairman should come from the south and the presidential candidate should come from the north. But the spirit and intent of that constitution is not talking about procedure leading to the election. It's talking about at every given time that you look at the party in terms of government, because the whole idea is that this is political process towards achieving power. It is only when you win the election and achieve power, that is when you begin to implement this thing that we're talking about. So I think it's a subjective interpretation. And he also sees sense in that, because in the last interview, he said there should be extra constitutional means. So he admitted. And that's why we never wanted to join issues with the interview of today, because it will be like you are rehashing what has been discussed and concluded already. In any case, the party that is supreme, which he must acknowledge, because in the state, he runs the government consistent with what he believes is the provision and the supremacy of the party. The party is supreme. The party has taken a decision, and the decision is that the NWC, led by the national chairman, has the vote of confidence, the trust of the party. And since then, we have moved into the electioneering campaign. We've achieved a lot of strides since then. Yesterday, or after the day before yesterday, you saw how, again, President Goodluck Jonathan referred to our vice presidential candidate as the incoming vice president when they paid him a courtesy visit. Tacit endorsement on his part. We were in Akwa Ibom. You saw the massive turnout of voters, members of the party, non-members of the party, and the good people of South-South, because South-South is the Camp David of PDP, because it has the highest number of governors from PDP, and they've always delivered. And contrary to those who thought that because of this little disagreement of the party, that the party will not enjoy the patronage and favor of the people in the South-South, contrary to that, you saw the overwhelming turnout. In fact, I was there.
Can you divorce, for instance, that a couple of PDP, governors are not present at your campaigns?
Yeah, you see, there would always be, for example, I know of a former governor who was not there because he was abroad for a different reason. I know of some other stakeholders that were given assignment. And in any case, it was a kickoff. It is not mandatory that every member of the party or any stakeholder of stakeholder of the party has to be present. The reason why this is an issue, especially to the media, not to us, is because they felt since there has been issue generated around their demand, people thought that, okay, if you have reconciled, we need they to have seen them, and that we did not see them, so we assume that there is problem. We do not even assume, that Wike is not with us. Wike is with us because he made it clear he's not leaving the party. As long as you are not leaving the party, you are part of the party. So whether you grace an occasion, you participate in a rally, or you participate in any campaign or not, so long as you're a registered member of the party, for all intent and purposes, you are a part of the party and you are rejoicing with the party's progress. If the party fails, you're part of the failure of the party.
Relate with the party even at the national level. For instance, say that he's going to campaign for Atiku Abubakar.
He never said that?
No, he never said that he was going to campaign for Atiku Abubakar. He just said that he is in the party, but he has given his support to some other states. I think it is Cross River State and the PDP flag bearers for governor, for houses of assembly, and for senatorial seats.
Well,
and that of his own state.
I have had, I think I've seen a couple of times where he said he doesn't have an issue with Atiku. He wished that the party wins and Atiku wins, and he will support Atiku. But that for us to drive that, there has to be a resignation by Iheanacho. But he has made it clear he will support. He's only saying there should be resignation. And as far as I'm concerned, he has not openly, at least to the best of our knowledge, declared his support for any other candidate other than Atiku. He has not mentioned any other person, right? Which means that his heart, his spirit, and his soul is with the party. And you know, one thing, like we have said it before, and it bears repeating, is that if he feels distraught and uncomfortable with this development, we have noticed in life, I mean, we've learned over the years where, for example, today you might hold a very strong opinion regarding a matter. After you sleep over, you will wake up tomorrow and have a change of mind. Or sometimes it may take 2, 3, 4 days, or sometimes it will take a month. But at some point, you will have a change of mind. Why? Because of a number of factors. One, you could have a change of mind because you realize that you should let go and let God. You could also change your mind when you realize that, okay, this path is not really going to work favorably to me or to the other person. So since I'm a stakeholder, lots of people look to me, let me let it go. 3, you could also change your mind because stakeholders of the party engaged you, assuage you, convince you, persuade you, and probably apologize to you. So there are many reasons and grounds for which somebody who is distraught today can change his mind tomorrow. And the party is very huge. So nobody is closing window. That's why we say it is not over until it is actually over. And it is not actually over until you can see that it is actually over. Today, it is not over because, one, I told you he's a member of the party. He has so said. He is committed to the progress of the party. He has said he has been supporting members of the party, including the individuals you mentioned that came to him and he gave them support. So he's still within the prism of the party, supporting the party. That is the perspective that we members of People's Democratic Party choose to give to the issue so we can focus on what lies ahead of us because we are in a commanding lead. And because we're in a commanding lead to win and rescue Nigeria, because we are not oblivious of the fact that Nigeria is at a critical stage at the moment. What APC has done to this country, ordinarily it will take many years to recover. I hope you know that there is a report just last week. I think either, I can't remember the source, I'll find out, but that next year, 2023, Nigeria's growth development is going to fall down. That means whoever becomes the president, the growth process is going to slow down. Secondly, you have just seen the budget of the country. 8.8 trillion is going to be borrowed, a budget of 20.5 trillion naira. The path is quite gloomy. The future with APC looks destructive. And so PDP that is convinced that we have the growth plan to take Nigeria out of the doldrum, we cannot afford the luxury of distraction. And that is why Atiku is focused on what he calls the covenant with the Nigerian people. We call it Atikunomics.
Do you think perhaps that Wike is bringing some level of misfocus for the PDP?
Well, I can't say that. Sometimes our acts can be either conscious or unconscious. So, for example, you may, with all intent and purposes, wish well, but the unconscious part of what you're doing might send a different message. I do not think that Wike, who has worked so tirelessly to build a party, will want the party to lose. He is passionately explaining, demonstrating his displeasure on issues.
But his displeasure is putting your party in such a precarious position leading up to the 2023 elections. Do you not fear, for instance, that with the kinds of comments that you getting from him, he's lukewarm, neither here nor there for your party, but he just says that I am still a member of the PDP. is that not going to bring some level of negative sentiments that may derail your progress leading up to
Let me tell you why that cannot be. The Nigerian people, like I told you, I gave you a perspective of what is confronting us as a country. So to a hungry man, it doesn't matter who the chef is. If the food is nutritious and is healthy, he will eat it. To the traveler, it doesn't matter if the driver is a man or a woman. If the driver is a licensed driver with knowledge, he believes the driver will take him out. The optics is different from the reality of confronting the Nigerian people. And we have assessed and seen that since the inception of this, whatever crisis that people call, till date, we have not lost steam in terms of popular participation or the energy and enthusiasm that you see associated with people in campaign. We flagged off from the zone where he comes from, and we had overwhelming support. That is the zone where he comes from. So if we are slowed down, or this is a problem for us, or that the people are now getting discouraged about us, that would have reflected in our kickoff in Akwa Ibom. The kickoff in Akwa Ibom is one way of evidence telling the Nigerian media, can we go to the next issue? Because we have been able to prove that the party is compact and the party is moving. And I can guarantee you at some point that Governor Wike is going to be part of this. He has spent his time and life in building this party. He cannot afford to let it go. He is a stakeholder. He also has a stake in it.
No, he's not leaving the party by any means. He's saying that, okay, with regards to the chairmanship of the party,
right,
are you, according to him, collected some monies from some governors?
Right.
I think he mentioned about 100 million naira.
Right.
And that is just so unconstitutional for the party, and that is unheard of the party. And he feels that a man with such a pedigree, with such character, should not even be allowed in the first place to be in office.
One thing about allegation is because when he said that, I recall he was asked who the governor was, and he said he won't mention, but let the man first deny. So he wasn't very open about it.
Is he playing a smart card again against the PDP?
That's another thing that the neutral mind might think, because he has never been shy of expressing himself. He has mentioned people on several occasions in his expression.
Is he lying?
No, I cannot say he's lying. I cannot say he's saying the truth. But I can tell you that I watched where he made an assertion. He was asked to validate it. He declined from validating it. So it is a common man who sees it to form the assessment. That's one. And number two, again, I've said it, and it bears repeating, is that the name of the party is called People's Democratic Party. Everybody has a part to play. You see, this is a political party. To win election, you need the vote of the Nigerian people. We are even talking at our level as politicians. We have not been able to look beyond that to look at what the people think, even from the opposition. For example, we have massive support we are getting even from APC, because the members of APC are discouraged about the direction that APC is taking them to, right? We are getting support from people from Labour. We are getting support from the neutrals and the millennials. We are getting support from the undecided.
Supporting the PDP.
Supporting the PDP and its quest to victory. Every day, if you read the papers, for example, policy analysts have adjudged that of all the political parties, PDP has the best comprehensive and well-defined economic plan for the Nigerian people. They will tell you that no economic plan is perfect, but of all, and let me further buttress the point, a governor, sitting governor, of people of all progressives, is it conference now?
APC.
Congress. You know, that reminds me of when General Buhari was, he made a mistake and people want to take it against, they say, all progressive confidence. But the APC, what I'm trying to say is Governor El-Rufai yesterday, while granting interview, for the entirety of the period, his points, his positions, his articulation, and his reasoning about economic blueprint or economic path to prosperity was completely PDP's plan. What is our position? Our position has always been that you have to privatize certain infrastructure, certain assets of the federal government so you can create efficiency. They laughed at us. But you heard him saying the government has even failed. He said their party, they failed. And that they have no business being in the oil and gas sector, that they should get out. What he is talking about, he referred the people in that interview to the telecom era, when he said the introduction of the telecommunication sort of, brought prosperity to Nigeria and created the jobs. Who was he referring to? He was referring to PDP. He was referring to Atiku Abubakar, who presided over that. Don't forget that it was Atiku Abubakar that created the opportunities for him when he was in BPE. So this is a member of APC, and he's one of the smartest. So in other words, our economic blueprint is so comprehensive and widely accepted by Nigerians that even stakeholders in APC are subscribing to it. What more do you need for me to tell you, to suggest to you that this is the moment and this is the time? We have not even gone beyond. You see, the president, on the day he laid the budget before the National Assembly, he agreed with the policy of our party. So I mentioned Governor El-Rufai. I'm now mentioning the president and the leader of the party. He said subsidy is not sustainable, and he is projecting that next year subsidy will have to be taken out.
So you believe that the PDP is the right party to take out that subsidy?
Yes, it's in our plan. It is a strategic, well-defined approach that may not be done one day, but the process and procedure will be so transparent because it is deeply entrenched in the philosophy.
How long will it take to take that off?
No, you cannot determine, but I can tell you that the decision to remove the subsidy is a day one decision by Atiku Abubakar. He said from day one, I will take certain decisions that will put this country into the path of economic prosperity. This is one of it. Because the entire country is on its knees because of subsidy. You heard Rufai say that NNPC in a year have not been able to produce 20,000 to Nigerians. Do you know how much is paid to subsidy? So now we're even borrowing to service debt. We're borrowing to pay salary. Practically everything we do, we're borrowing. If you ask a common trader on the streets that everything he does in terms of feeding and clothing and everything has to be borrowed, he will tell you it is nonsensical because that is a clear path to disaster. It takes you out of business. Common principle is that when you invest, there should be a savings, there should be investment, and there should be, day-to-day expenses. Now, these are there's a common man on the street. But in terms of economic policy of a country, there are different schools. But our party presents that economic policy that helps a country like Nigeria. If we have to come out of where we are to a better path in this country, we have to create jobs. How do you create jobs when you cannot introduce bold policies that will open up the economy? How can you create jobs when you are so stringent in your regulation that you fail to allow the private sector to participate in stimulating the economy? How can you grow the economy when you cannot look at the basic principles of power generation? How can you grow the economy when even suppliers of gas to the country, you have not been able to pay them? Everywhere you went seeking for loan, they asked if you are energy sufficient. You have no blueprint and no plan for renewable energy. How can you grow that? How can you grow your economy when you cannot provide leadership in the area of insecurity? Because if it is the funding, we have borrowed, we have bought the Tokano. But still, for the lack of leadership and idea, the labor of the foolish, we read every one of them. So for the lack of idea, you have the money that you borrowed.
Are you saying that it's intentional to keep the Tucano Jets fighters down?
I quite frankly, I don't even know what policy they are running. What I know is that when it comes to the security, you see, you have to understand that the 21st century warfare is an intelligence-driven warfare. Tucano would mean nonsense if there are the platform that establish a blueprint for intelligence gathering is not there.
So you're saying it's a waste of time?
No, we need it. We need it. But there are many layers to fighting insecurity. For example, there is what people have come to generally call the non-kinetic. Is the government taking that measure? All we hear is that they release Boko Haram, free them. They carry them, give them food, and productive Nigerians are not given such opportunity. Or we hear that, okay, in exchange for this and this, certain Boko Haram elements were released, unknown to Nigeria. Everything is strategied in secret. All we are saying is, take for example Kaduna, right? Abuja to Kaduna. We established infrastructure. We got the rail line. Everybody clapped and hailed. But can you imagine for the life of me that from the beginning we did not conceive the idea that banditry and kidnapping is consequently going to affect this infrastructure enough for us to take measures to do what they call security and surveillance. Why is the contract given to Tompolo now producing a breakthrough in the discovery of oil pipeline theft? Because you are now paying attention to what? Security and surveillance. These are intelligence-driven platforms or approaches. So you need to have an idea of how you fight insecurity. But there is even a deeper fact. Any country with the most sophisticated equipment, military hardwares, but without an economic blueprint, will only produce more hardliners rather than changing. Poverty is in the land. No policy is geared towards removing them. All of the social safety net programs that we hear of the government have been ending in private pocket because there is no way to assess the performance of this project. You will hear billions given to train people to repair watch, billions spent to train people to say, go and be cleaning the street and you get 20 or 30,000 in 3 months. You will hear this one, they said about food. You will hear this agriculture. What business, for example, does the central bank have to be interfering and intervening in virtually everything, from agriculture, Afro-Exim Bank, in virtually everything? So it lost its sight of the primary responsibilities of regulations regarding monetary policies.
But there are impacts, recorded impacts of these monies that they're giving out, say the market money, what do you call it again?
Trader money?
The trader money, my apologies. Like the trader money.
Right.
It has had its own impact.
So where? How do you have you been able to assess? You see, it's a different thing if I tell you I brought out 100,000 and I helped 10 people. Then you can guess that I spent 10,000, right? On each person. If I say I spent 3 billion on 10 people, you wonder. The next thing you would want to do is to do what they call, what is this method of assessing? Like forensic analysis, right? Forensic investigation. To know how you arrive at that. How was the money spent? Who were the beneficiaries? To what extent can we say? All of these facts are the things that the National Assembly, various committees on different occasions summon the appointees of the government. Not a single one has been able to appear before them and give a clear-cut data that can confirm that these monies were used transparently. They have always used excuse, and the excuses they have always used were, one, that the names of the people were attached with their BVN, and it will be unfair to release it to the public because it has to do with their confidential information.
How will you do things differently as PDP if you win the presidency?
Providing the leadership. So when you are thinking of a program, right from the beginning, before you start the program, you have to draw assessment plan, right? It is like when you appoint ministers without midterm assessment of their performance, then that means everybody will be doing what he likes. But if you have a midterm assessment program, it means that after, if for example, you say every 6 months or every 2 years, after 2 years, you'll be able to evaluate this minister and this ministry. What has he done? These are the blueprints, right, given to him to implement. But between now and the next 2 years or in the past 2 years, what has he been able to do? So there must be measurable, ascertainable, verifiable facts to suggest the performance of either a ministry or a program of government. So what we will bring is we'll bring the leadership that will hold people to account, because this thing comes down to the issue of accountability. Nobody is being held to account. Atiku Abubakar, if you remember his days right from 1999 when they came to power, he has been somebody who has always been in charge of whatever he's doing. Like if you look at the telecommunications sector, how that revolution came, he was practically in charge of it. And that is the leadership that Nigeria needs, not the leadership that you say, I have provided the money, therefore I don't know how it's going to happen. Or in fact, to start to pander towards a leadership of falsehood. Like they said, okay, they've been oscillating between whether to bank on the policy of this administration or to reject it. I saw today a publication that they have not been able to agree on the date for their campaign because of this disagreement between the governors and their presidential candidate, because the presidential candidate said he did not want a manifesto that will reflect more of this administration's performance, but on his Lagos performance. And they are saying, how could you just turn your back from us? You see that confusion. The reason they are oscillating in their viewpoint is because they thought that if they could lay hold to this government, they are agreeing with us that APC-led government has not been able to perform. The stats are there. The indices are there. So when you talk of economy, you know they say we're going towards super inflation. If you talk of security, you know they said this is one of the worst places on earth. If you go to in all facets, so he wants to abandon that and move to Lagos. So we followed him to Lagos, only to discover that after all these years, that the Economic Intelligence Unit that they were banking on to say that this Economic Intelligence Unit said we are going to win the election, the same Economic Intelligence Unit said that Lagos is the second worst place on earth to live, work, and do business. And the indices are there. Agriculture, they look at healthcare.
What report is that?
Security, Economic Intelligence Report, June 2022. That's 2022. That Lagos State is worst, only behind Damascus. And they wanted to give an excuse and say, oh, the reason why Lagos was second worst was because of COVID-19. In 2018, said Lagos was the third worst city to live in, work in the whole world. And so I even asked, if they say he built Lagos, ask him whether Ajegule, Mushin, Iyanepaja, and some of these places are not part of Lagos. When he say he built Lagos, ask him about the public schools, the public hospitals, the public infrastructure, whether they are not part of Lagos. Because you see, when they say he built Lagos and they go to Eko Atlantic or they go to Victoria Island or Lekki, they are actually trying to point at infrastructure established by private players in the economy, businessmen, their assets, their structures, their business interests there. That's what he wants to point at, to say he made Lagos. So where is the IGR? Do you know that Lagos State's IGR matches that of 20 states of Nigeria? So that means if you probe further, instead of saying he built Lagos, you might come to the point of saying, where is the money of Lagos people? And yet when he left, him and Fashola, combined, they left a debt burden of 1.4 billion. To prove them wrong, Ambode came and said,
you mean?
$1 billion, $1.4 billion. When this is foreign debt alone. When Fashola came and when Ambode came and said, I'm not going to borrow foreign anywhere. I'm going to focus on the IGR and the allocation. And for the number of times that this man stayed, for the first time that he stayed, he was able to pay largely the debt and did more arguably infrastructure than them combined. And at the same time, at the end of the day, he left freely. They didn't even see him worthy to give him second term. So whether you go to Lagos or you go to the APC-led government, there's nowhere to go because intrinsically, inherent in the party's policy is a destructive economic policy. It is faulty from the very foundation. It is built from a socialist point of view, and don't quote me wrong. Socialists can be nice if the government can show transparency and honesty in the distribution of wealth.
Which is what Tinubu says he stands for. I mean, equity, fairness. Come to Lagos is a place where you can start with nothing and become somebody, and even has the qualifications. If you have to look at the controversy over certificate or maybe overlook it, would you be considering to overlook something like that? You say when it comes to education, I don't think
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for example, will build around this. The person who has refreshed his memory during this period and he updated himself is Atiku Abubakar, because he was able to obtain a master's in Anglo Ruskin University most recently, because he believes that to match with the cutting age and times, you have to be consistent and update yourself. But in the case of Tinubu, there has been allegation around his certificate. The last time I produced receipts to suggest that his spokesman, the man marketing him, does not believe that the man has certificate. And I cited the Supreme Court spokesperson, Festus Keyamo. I cited Supreme Court decision to suggest that when he took the House of Assembly of Lagos, the ground that he took them on was that Tinubu's certificate were falsified and forged. He came before and tried to defend it. Let me show you one. It will interest you. And this is a court of appeal. So it was from this court of appeal that they go to the Supreme Court that I earlier talked about. Now, I want to show you what he said in the court of appeal. The facts are attached to his originating summons, right? Now, if you look at part 680, Nigerian Weekly Law Report, volume 12, part 680. So if you come to pages 200, you look at paragraph 10. I'll just pick just a bit. It says that while contesting, this is him, part of his ground, while contesting for the position of governor of Lagos State in 1998, a certain Nigerian, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, presented to the plaintiff as a prospective voter and to all voters, and indeed to Independent National Electoral Commission, the following facts himself, referring, this is Keyamo saying, this is what Tinubu did. That one, that he attended College Ibadan, Government College Ibadan in 1965 to 68. Two, that he attended Richard Daley College, Chicago, Illinois, 1969-71. That he attended University of Chicago from 1972 to 76. That he attended Chicago State University from 77 to 79. Then he now said that the certificate he obtained from the schools were lost. Then he now concluded in 10, he said, however, based on the allegation that he claims referring to A, to C, and E above, making it about 80% of his certificate, he said they were dubious. This is Festus Keyamo. He went to court and said, these certificates and these facts that Tinubu said are dubious. I do not believe in it. And let me make the point. This was what took him to court. He tries to give the excuse that the Supreme Court gave a decision and he has since moved on. Absurdity. The Supreme Court struck out, the trial court, Court of Appeal, and Supreme Court all agreed and struck out his case. Not because Tinubu had a good certificate. Because when you file originating summons, you must file an affidavit. He failed to file affidavit. So on technical ground, the case failed. But not on the germane issues raised in his document when he went to court. In other words, and to say it in a better way, Festus Keyamo still holds the belief that Tinubu does not have certificate. Tinubu falsified his certificate. He talked about
what he said was that these are cases that were brought up since 1992, and the court has already ruled over them, and these are forgotten issues now.
So that's the point.
We cannot take beyond the stance of the court.
Let me tell you, no, there are two different things. I'm a lawyer, and every lawyer listening to this will know there is a difference between the court rests the case on the merit of the case, and the court struck out the matter on technical ground. He needs to come and tell the world that the things I said in this case, I no longer believe them. Unless he says that, he cannot say the judgment of the court has raised the matter. The judgment of the court struck out the case because he did not file and he did not attach affidavit. So one fact that is still there is that what you said, what is your position now? You said that after saying he went to all these schools, he produced a certificate which you said they were falsified. You said that the man claimed that they were lost is false. You say everything he said were dubious. This is a fact. Court did not say what you said that they were dubious is wrong. No, that's not what all the court said. They did not have the opportunity to delve to on the merit of the matter because he did not file affidavit. In other words, his application or whatever he summons in court lacks merit for the want of affidavit. And the reason why affidavit in this kind of origination summons is very essential is because you are raising issues that are disputable. So you have to bring in affidavit so that the other party will get the opportunity to also contest it. If it is originating motion, then you are simply asking for interpretation. So don't allow him to confuse the people.
Festus is not here. I'll get a clarification from him when we are able to, get his listening ear. But the PDP itself, let me take you back again to the genesis of this interview, which has to do with Nyesom Wike. From his submissions in his recent interview, he says that the people who are being sent to him by your principal go back and tell him something else that is different from what his position is. Can Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the candidate of the PDP running for president in 2023, can he meet with Wike face to face and iron these things out so that we don't get the impression that there is a crack within the party?
Atiku has met Wike 2 weeks ago, face to face. Yes, has met him 2 weeks ago, face to face.
But you've not met his demands.
I don't know what the demands are. Atiku is not superior to the party. Atiku is not above the party. You see, let me tell you something about Atiku, and a lot of people who don't know. So when they look at His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, they will tend to think, you see, you have to look at a situation where you are and the balance you have to strike. Atiku is contesting as a Democrat. He is soliciting for the vote of Nigeria that if elected, he will execute the Constitution of the Federal Republic and administer governance. He is careful and mindful of that. And he must not be a breaker of the law he is seeking to promote. So if you want to execute the Constitution of Nigeria, will it be fair to watch you disobey the law of your party? What is the constitution of the party? There's a laid down procedure. So Atiku Abubakar cannot invalidate, undermine, or do a coup on the constitution of the party. And this he has made clear in his speech when he was about to kick off the campaign. He made it a very passionate plea for us to understand where we were, the task ahead of us, the demand. He said that's fine. He respects the right of people to make the demand, and that if this thing is going to follow the party's procedure, that he will feel wonderful. But as to whether Ayu resigns personally, Atiku said, I think in that is a press release, that it is the decision of Ayu to make. But at every given time...
But if this continues to brew every now and then when Wike has to say something, doesn't that give you a sense that this is troubling him so much and is reflecting on your party in a negative light? Suspend him.
The party is not reflected in a negative light.
Can you suspend him?
The party?
No. Can Ayu suspend Wike?
The party has a procedure. I mean, anybody who breaks the law of the party will take measures. But the third party will take measures consistent with the procedure of the party. And then the party has to make up its mind at every given time when you offend
somebody. Would you consider what Wike is saying as anti-party?
I am not in a position to say that. Why? Because I am not a member of the National Working Committee. I'm not a member of the Board of Trustees, right? And what we are focused right now on is to win the election. So you have to understand something I will tell you. And I think that in all of my appearances in various television or radio outreach, I try to make clear to the media is that if you don't know strategy, you will become a victim of tragedy. In life, you have to be strategic in what you do. At every given time, just like the way you have limited resources, right? That's the whole essence of economics. How do you deploy these limited resources to the scarce situation that you're facing, right? Now, we have election ahead of us. Our eye is on the ball. We are focused on it. He that put his hand in the plow and looks back is not fit. And if your eyes is singular, your whole body will be full of light. That's our perspective to it. We're looking at the election. Anything that will bring distraction to it is not what we are prepared for. And we know ultimately, Mr. Gimba, the voters are the Nigerian people. And when they vote, when they go to vote, they know what they think about. They will not be thinking about whether Gimba and Bwala are having misunderstanding. They will think about the future of their children. You know that you have your children, they are in school and they are no longer in school, they go through pain and you get the opportunity to effect a change. You know what you're going to do. They know that they are going to vote on the basis of the economy, their family. They know they will look at the security of their lives, that of their children, and they will decide on the basis. And these people that will cast the vote, they are not moved by primordial sentiment. So if you are running for election and your eyes and focus is on the ball, your focus is on the people, and you continue to engage with them and hear their responses. So far, there was no place we went to in our engagement with the people where that became an issue to the voters. But as a political party, like I've always said to the media houses, we have party administration already involved in the reconciliation process while we continue to focus. Those of us that have a little knowledge about football or basketball or everything, you know what it means to concentrate when you are in a competition. That's what we're doing. For us to be distracted is to do an undue service to the people. Because we know that APC is about to take Nigeria to extinction. We know that Labour Party is not a better alternative. Because Labour Party leader has no experience, his history, and understanding is a total evidence to suggest that. And we also know there is NNPP and other political party.
Even after being governor for 8 years?
Yes, you can be governor for 8 years, minister for 20 years, and still, if you don't have experience in governance, you don't have. So when he governed in the 8 years, what we have always said, all you need to do is to look at the 8 years. The same way we looked at Lagos. Because it is easy for you to assume what Fashola did, it is Tinubu that did. What Ambode did is Tinubu that did, because it is Lagos. You have to put a perspective to it. So in the 8 years he governed in Anambra, one fact that Anambarians have come to conclude, agree about, is that he did not focus on infrastructure. 2, he did not focus on the unity of the people. They say he rode on sentiment of Catholic as against the Anglicans, and that was bad. They said also he claimed to have saved money in the reserve for the state, but that in fact the bank where he saved the money from were banks to which he was a shareholder. That is corruption. And so they have on and on and on and on evidence to suggest. In fact, above all, his talking point is that we cannot continue to go as a country of consumption. We have to move from consumption to production. Everything about his life is the very opposite of that message. He has a department store in Nigeria. From the toothpick to the highest quality of item, he says that they are all imported. The only thing he produced in the country is beer, alcohol, which he continues to produce in Anambra and have young people get drunk without a proper perspective of the future that they had to follow. So the Nigerians are looking at that. And this is where experience is lacking. But is he even making the efforts to unite Nigeria? He was asked on several occasions to denounce IPOB. He said he would never do that. He rolled out his campaign dates. He took out Mondays throughout the southeastern Nigeria. This would have been a statement for you to make that, look, I don't agree with the IPOB and this extremism. Since they say sit at home every day, I have to demonstrate I want to be the president of Nigeria. I'm going to hold rally on Monday. I'm going to lift up the flag of Nigeria on Monday so they will understand that I'm running to become the president of Nigeria. But all of that fell on deaf ears. So when you put all of this together, and then the last thing about him is the myth. The irony that he is like a new phenomenon that emerged like a clap of thunder out of a blue sky. No, he's a regular politician like every other person. He's a kid in the block. He has been around. We have just assessed his 8 years, and after his 8 years, he had the opportunity to also serve in the government of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. He was in the private sector. He even ran as vice presidential candidate with Atiku Abubakar in 2019. Even in 2023 bid, he was in PDP. He bought the form. He went through the screening. And it's because he saw that he could not win because of frustration that he moved to Labour Party. Otherwise, the conversation now will still be that he is with us, going all over the country advocating. And heck, let me tell you something. Apart from some of his misguided and miscalculated and misshot economic policies that do not join, he is by very nature a capitalist. He is running on the platform of a political party that shares the very opposite. Remember, removal of fuel subsidy is what Labour and Labour Party fights to hell. And he wants to remove subsidy. So he's riding on a political party that before the plane takes off, there will be war. Let us come back to the formation of his campaign council. He released campaign council. You see duplicate names because he does not have the infrastructure. He still doesn't have the people. He produced 1,000 people, and you see one person's name appearing 3 times as a member of the same campaign council.
So long as he succeeds, that's not a problem of the PDP.
But how can then he succeed when right from, you see, a strong building is determined by the foundation, isn't it? If you want to take up a journey, it is how you begin that people can begin to look at it. So on the evidence of messaging, he's faulty. And that is why when he was going around all the media houses in the country, granting interview and the additional stats from China, Bangladesh, Malaysia, and Egypt, people began fact-checking him. Now he does not campaign on those facts and stats anymore. They now resort to influencing pollsters to give a fake, I use the word fake because when we ask the pollsters what is the sample, what is the margin of error and the sample size, they have not been able to give. You see, because the demographic of Nigeria cut across various places, there are Nigerians, smart, educated, corporate people, they are not on social media. So when we say not everybody is on social media, we are not referring to illiterate. There are demographics in this country. They do not subscribe to being in social media. They are educated. There are some non-educated. There are those who believe in social media and they are there. There are those who don't even know what social media is. There are those who have telephones, those who do not have telephone. When you understand the delicate nature of our demographics, your polling should cut across them. That's why polling is expensive. But what did the people who surrogate for him do? They go to the social media and poll from social media. So in other words, a fragment of the population of the country. Even then, they poll from the members, supporters of his political party and his movement. They poll from them. And so if you're polling from, for example, obedient or people who subscribe to his view, then certainly the outcome of the polling will be different. And this is not new. We've seen that in America. Polling companies act as surrogates to individuals, so we are not moved by the polling. In fact, the polling is a total departure from the reality on ground. Because when last have you seen him engage with Nigerians? Peter Obi engages with the very same people he said they destroyed Nigeria. When Atiku Abubakar engaged with the various group, Chamber of Commerce, the Nigerian business communities, the Nigerian farmers, involved with stakeholders, talking to the people that these things matter to them. Peter Obi is going to see General this, former President this, Governor this one this, collecting money, collecting support, and the rest.
No, so you have no evidence that he's collecting it.
No, but even if he does not, he's meeting them. He needs support. Support can be financial, it can be in in cash, it can be in word. But what we're saying is, everything you're telling the world about the people who destroy Nigeria, you are going to the same people you say they destroy Nigeria and asking for their support. And we know that if these people that you're going to are the ones that make you president, they will dictate what you do. So you're riding on the youth. You say that you are standing as a movement for the young people. You have not engaged with the NANS. You have not. There is no group of young people, whether Nigerian Association of Nigerian Students, Association of these young people in this youth, in this demographic. He has never engaged with any form of demographics of the youth that he claimed he's doing the movement for. He only needs them to be on the street. He needs them to be on social media fighting. But he goes to the oligarchs, if I have to use the word, or rather to say he goes to the big men to seek his endorsement. So that is the reason why people know that this idea of his agenda is not sustained by reality, is not sustained by principle, is not sustained by even the things that he said. So on economic, that he believes in production and not consumption, his life and business shows the very opposite. That he believes that people are stealing in the government, his administration in Anambra shows the very opposite. That he believes that those who destroy Nigeria, he will run a government that will be the very opposite. You cannot keep going to them to make you president and still be saying that you are going to change them. The one that you say you're going to unite Nigeria, you cannot, even within the precinct of your Christian religion, you even have the temerity of dividing along Catholic and Anglican. So when you become president, how will you behave to the Muslims?
Enough about Peter Obi, the candidate of Labour Party running for president in 2023. Let's come back to maybe just a final word from you before we leave, because time has been far spent. Mm-hmm. David Mark, the former Senate president, has been drafted by your party to appeal to Wike. Is that correct?
I'm not aware. You have a source? Because the same source that reported, I think I heard Wike this morning saying that when he was asked that question, that David Mark, Governor Peter Odili, and some other individuals were drafted to speak to him, he said it's a lie, because he said yesterday he was with Peter Odili and that they spent a couple of hours talking. And he was even berating the news media. They say, you people just keep cooking up stories like that. So
that is clarified now. There's nothing like that. Now,
not to my knowledge.
Your party is heading, should I say, going to the next phase in your campaigns.
Right.
And this may be heading to Kaduna, I understand, if I'm not mistaken. What do Nigerians expect from you there?
Nigerians expect exactly what we're talking about, because Nigerians are concerned about their families, their budgets, their jobs, their children, the health of their children, the future of their children, their own future, their own security. Most of them are not in their homes. People don't project plans because of insecurity. Investors are flying out of the country, taking capital away because there is incoherent and inconsistent policies. The Nigerians are divided, suspicion all over. In other words, there has never been a time where we're now low like now. So Nigerians are looking for someone that will rescue the country from this doldrum. So you need someone who is a unifier in the real sense of the word. You need someone with experience to deal with all of these problems put together. You need someone that has the knowledge and experience of dealing with the economy, which he did as vice president. You need somebody who has the knowledge and the wisdom and discerning spirit of assembling team that will bring about economic growth. You need somebody who knows how to galvanize the people for progress. When you look at all of this that the Nigerian people are looking to, amongst the presidential candidates, it is only Atiku Abubakar that fits the profile. Superior experience, superior knowledge, superior reach around the country, ability to galvanize, support. And Atiku presents the clear path to the Nigerian dream that we all look for. The other candidates have problem. Either they're regional champions, or with no experience, or inconsistent in their policies, or they do not stand the test of time. So that is why we strongly believe that even as we go to engage, our message to the Nigerian people is very clear and clearly defined in our manifesto, and the only political party with a manifesto. APC had a meeting. They could not agree on manifesto. You can see that they have a messaging problem. Just agree on the message, they have a problem, because they know they have failed in all of these areas. Labour Party has not been able to produce a manifesto. I don't talk much about Labour Party because I know for the optics, people look at what it does in the social media, but it doesn't stand a chance. To win, you have to score the majority. You have to have 25% in 24 states. He does not. The same thing with Kwankwaso. So the real thing is people are looking at Atiku Abubakar. This is the time and the opportunity that God has given for you to lead us. What have you got? It is clearly defined. In all our engagement, whether with the media, with various interest groups, our points are clear. Happy to take feedback from them if we need to improve on anything. But we are not like APC doing what in Hausa we call John Jemmy. You wait for somebody to produce his manifesto, then you begin to correct and then come back. That's all they do. But everything, PDP has been in the front line. We announced a date for primaries, we had the primaries. We announced a date campaign, we released the campaign council. We inaugurated the campaign council. We appeared in Peace Park. We launched our campaign. We're in all over the places. Everything deadline. Atiku is the only candidate that came into this journey ready. He is not planning to be ready. He is living ready for this job. He understands the enormity of the job and he's prepared for it. Wake him up in the morning, touch him at noon or in the evening, ask him any question. And you know what? When Atiku was vice president, he interrelated with presidents and vice presidents, some of whom have gone. Some of them are probably somewhere in government. But he has this reach. Atiku can lift his head and the international community will listen because they know what he's worth. We do not need starters, amateurs, or people without a very strong conviction. At this time of Nigeria, you have to have a character to lead. And this is where Atiku is in the clear lead.
That's a good place to let it rest. The spokesperson, Atiku Abubakar Presidential Campaign Council, Dr. Daniel Bwala, we do sincerely thank you.
Thank you
for talking to us.
Thank you for coming.
Always.
Thank you.